afternoon and welcome once again to my YouTube channel. What am I doing today? I'm doing a bit of a PSA, public service announcement. The subject at hand is fake guitars, or specifically fake Gibson guitars, otherwise known as Chibsons. Yes, Chinese made Gibson copy guitars. Now, I could get into this in all sorts of ways, but the reason I wanted to make this video is I actually have one to hand. I'm going to show you that in a minute. And I thought I'd outline the 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 things that you can spot visually when looking at pictures perhaps of these things, to understand whether or not it might be a fake that you're looking at. Over the years of guitar manufacturing, there have been copies made of all of the classic guitars, all the Strats and all the Les Pauls and all that, and for the most part a copy is okay, you know, as long as it goes under the brand of the manufacturer, and they say yes, it's an S-type guitar or an LP type guitar, and they put their own name to it. Copy guitars, okay, fine, as long as it's, you know, branded else otherwise, but you know, what we're talking about here is guitars that are branded to look like a proper manufacturer, and then they're actually made by somebody else completely, and more often than not to a much lower standard, and that's kind of what we're going to be focusing on right now. This idea of Chibson guitars that have the brand name Gibson on the headstock, but are quite obviously not Gibsons, or at least obvious when you know what to look for, and that's what I'm here to give you a bit of a hand with. So I'm going to start by showing you this thing. Let's have a little look, shall we? Here it is. Whoa, look at that, it's a Gibson Les Paul, and a Gibson Les Paul custom nonetheless. But is it? No, it's not at all. So here we go, look, it's got that nice headstock, and the gold bits and pieces, and the block inlays, and all the gold hardware and all that. It's in alpine white, and generally speaking, it looks alright, doesn't it? From a distance. You've got a nice Les Paul custom, but it's when you start looking closely that things start getting a little bit unusual. So let's start with the first thing. Number one is the serial number. Now, this is often a giveaway on these things. If you look at this one in particular, you can see it's actually printed on. Look at that. Gibson have always stamped the serial numbers into the back of their headstock, so there's an indent where the actual serial number goes. This one's simply just been printed by some method on top of the paintwork, and they've even been as cheeky as to write "Made in the USA." I don't think so somehow. So there you go, and that's a straight giveaway. So what's number two? Well, number two is the Truss Rod cover. Now, if you look at this one, you can see this truss rod cover, not only is it the wrong shape, but it's held in by the wrong number of screws. There are 3 screws in this one, and Gibson used 2, and a slightly different shaped truss rod cover as a result of that. So that's another one straight away, visual giveaway. 3 screws on the truss rod cover, and you know it's fake. So what do we got? What else we got? So the next one is logo placement. So looking at the logo on this one, now you're looking at it and you might think, it looks alright, it doesn't look too bad, says Gibson, but there's a few things to look out for with this. And first off, Gibson logos are always done with proper mother of pearl and inlaid as well, whereas this one looks kind of just plain like white, doesn't have the mother of pearl look to it, and looks overlaid rather than inlaid, meaning it's just something that's been stuck over the top of the thing. Not only that, but the biggest and most obvious one for me is the actual placement. I'm trying to get this at an angle that you can see, so I'll throw some pictures up so you can see some authentic bits, but with a proper Gibson, point to look at is the little stick at the bottom of the G there. On a proper Gibson, it tends to stick. It sits somewhere alongside the top tuning peg here. It's kind of on a level with the top middle of the tuning peg, and the logo kind of slants up a little steeper, whereas with this, the logo's kind of straightened up a bit and pushed higher up to the top, so that little stem of the Gibson there, the G rather, is actually starting above the tuning peg. So that's something, again, straight away easy to look for. If you see the little stick at the bottom of the G hanging down the side of the peg, you're genuine. If it's sitting above the peg, fake. Alright, what we got next? So I've had to write a list down here to remember all these things, so I'm working off a list, but here we go. So here's another one, and this requires being able to view the thing at a certain angle, but one thing to look out for is where the binding meets the headstock. Now you can see here, there's binding around the headstock itself, sorry, where the binding meets the neck, and you can see there's binding there coming around the headstock, and then here where it meets the neck, there's a bit of something going on. Now let's see if we can get in close enough to see this. Can you see how it's kind of wedged in, like the binding along the side of the neck kind of carries on up to the nut, and then it's kind of wedged in with the here where the binding starts on the headstock. That is all wrong, and I'll throw up a picture that shows you how it's done properly on a Gibson, but there you go, that's another indicator straight away that you're looking at a Gibson. And if you're wondering what that weird jingly noise was, that's my front door. Somebody's passed my front door. Shall we see who it is? Let's have a look. Anyway, so there you go, where the binding from the headstock meets the neck, and it looks like shite basically, and it's fake obviously. Alright, next thing, what do we got? Mother of pearl inlay stuff. So basically everything inlaid on a proper Gibson is mother of pearl, proper mother of pearl, and that's the Gibson logo here, that's the little fancy shaped thing, whatever that is, whatever you want to call that there, and then down the neck as well, all of the fretboard inlays and all that. And looking at this one, it's obvious straight away. The logo on the headstock, they're not even bothered trying there. But then where we get to the thing here, yes, they've tried to make that look like mother of pearl, but there's all sorts of weirdness going on with it. And then down the neck, the fretboard inlays again. Kind of look like a fake mother of pearl, but you can tell mother of pearl. The colours just aren't there, you know. It's got that kind of swirliness to it that kind of makes it look mother of pearly, but it's obvious it's not proper mother of pearl, because you don't get all that really nice sort of colours jumping out at you. Okay, so this is another one of a bit contentious, but it's something I watch out for, and often proves to be a bit of a giveaway, and that is how the tuning pegs sit in around the binding around the edge of the headstock. And I've seen it quite often on fakes where the middle tuning pegs here, where they're closest to the binding, actually overlap the binding a little bit and cover some of it, and for me that is a bit of a giveaway. I don't think you ever see that on a proper Gibson. And alternatively as well, on the inside of these middle two tuning pegs, you might get the logo here where it's overlapping that, and I don't think this one's too bad. It's a little bit overlap there, a little bit not quite there, but a little bit overlapping there, a little bit. So everything just looks too close and for comfort, whereas you'd expect with a proper Gibson there to be a little bit of clearance around all these things, and it look a little tidier. A bit of an obvious one, this one, but strap buttons, look at them. There's a strap button there, and there's a strap button there. There you go, that's a better view, isn't it? These, you can tell, these are just cheap, nasty ones. Gibson guitars always have really nice, quite chunky strap buttons that look half decent, and we'll all just strap on. Whereas these are quite obviously little nasty cheap ones, and yeah, you're going to lose your strap in no time with these things. So that's another straight giveaway on this one in particular. There you go. So next thing, and this is a big one actually, this is another big visual indicator. Just smashed my monitor there. Another big indicator, and one of the most obvious ones to look out for really. If the thing says Gibson on the headstock and you see this next thing, you know absolutely for certain it's not a Gibson, it's a fake. And that is the bridge posts. Now if you get a look at here, you can see there the bridge posts either side have flathead screw adjustment thingamybobs on them. That's wrong. That means it's a fake. What it should have is proper Gibson ones, which are just like stud posts. The more modern ones have like a space for an Allen key to get in there and sort that out. But if you see that type of bridge post in there with the flathead screw adjustment, you know you're onto a fake big time. I mean, Epiphones do have those, but you know, you're not even looking at an Epiphone really here. You are looking at definitely a fake guitar with a cheap bridge. So, you know, I mean, okay, it works, but it's not a proper one. So, fake! Alright, next one, Cutaway Binding. Right, so what are we talking about there? Well, this is the Cutaway. Cutaway for your hand to get in and do frimming in the higher frets. Now, over the years, Gibson have chosen a multitude of different ways to run the binding along the inside edge of the cutaway here, and it's a particular bit of a point of contention and a bit of a problem area for Gibson, simply because of the way a Gibson body is arched across the top. Arch top guitars, that's what they call them, isn't it? So and trying to get your binding to come round the horn of the cutaway in a nice straight line and then carry on up to where it meets the neck, it's quite a difficult thing to achieve. And not only that, but Gibson also have, you know, a lot of the guitars have the maple cap, and the binding isn't thick enough to keep to cover the whole the thickness of the maple cap. So where it's a solid painted colour like this, not so much a problem, but with the burst colour ones, where you see the wood grain through, often as the binding comes round and it kind of pushes up against the arch, or into the arch rather, it starts to reveal a little bit of the maple cap, and you get that little line underneath the binding where you start to see the edge of the maple cap instead of just the mahogany body of the guitar. I mean, that's okay, and Gibson have dealt with that a number of different ways over the years. They've thickened up the binding to cover that. Some and more recently they just keep the binding nice and neat. And you can actually see just a little bit of the maple cap, slightly different colour to the rest of the body of the guitar. But again, if you've got the chance to look in this area on a Gibson guitar, it will always look neat. It will always look tidy. It will always look well done. On a fake Chibson, it will look like this. I don't know if I can even get it close up. Just looks monkey, doesn't it? It just looks not very well done. The binding's kind of wonky and it's kind of shoved in there, and you know, it just doesn't look right, does it? I'm not sure if that's really getting across in this particular view, but trust me, when I look close up at this thing, I can see it just looks shit. And then number 10 is just the general build quality of the thing. I mean, you know, I can look over this thing and I can spot a whole bunch of things where I just think, just doesn't look right. I mean, one of the things is the carve around the headstock, where the neck meets the headstock. There's just something not right there. It's just lumpy and a bit weird, and you can see it through the paint, and there's flat spots where it should be rounded, and it just doesn't look right, and it feels lumpy and it feels weird. Almost feels like this thing's had a headstock repair, but I bet it came out of the factory like that in China. And other than that, you know, just other bits and pieces, the screws and the fit of the screws, the quality of the plastics on like the covers, the port covers and things like that. You know, the quality of the knobs, the way they feel when you turn them, just feel a bit the switch sounds dull, you know, it doesn't sound right, it doesn't feel right. Pickup covers look just cheap, plated rubbish. I mean, there's lots of other ones as well. I mean, another one, fret inlays, frets themselves. On a genuine Gibson, that's never been refretted. Let's stress that point. If it's never been refretted, with Gibson guitars, what they always do is the binding has little nibs on the ends where it meets the fret, and so you get like a little bit of the binding sticking up at the side of the fret. Whereas with this one, you can see, I think so, you can see the frets go right over the top of the binding and right to the edge of the fretboard there. And all the way up, you can see that. And now, you know, it may be that you're looking at a real Gibson and you see that, and that's probably because it's quite common for people to have their older Gibsons refretted, and in doing so they remove the nibs, because that is a bit of a point of contention. Not everybody likes them, and there is a bit of a fundamental flaw in them, in that occasionally there can be a bit of a gap between the nib and the end of the fret, and you can get a string stuck in there. So, but something to look out for. If it's supposed to be a brand new Gibson guitar, then you can absolutely guarantee if you see that on the frets, then yeah, that's a fake too. So there you go. That was an extra bonus one actually, but kind of part of the general build quality thing. But yeah, there's lots of other stuff that gives this away. I mean, just having a bit of a knock around. I can hear the chambering, excessive chambering. Well, especially up here. Yeah, there's all sorts of extra wood being taken out there. I'm pretty sure there'll be some sort of veneer or cap on the top of this, and then underneath there'll be a piece of wood where there's been quite a lot taken out. So anyway, here we go. Yeah, not a Gibson, it's a Chibson. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not judging the people who buy these things knowingly. If they know what they're getting into, and they're paying the fair price for the guitar that it is, then, you know, okay, I mean, you know, you're actually breaking the law buying it, remember, but if you know what you're getting, fair enough, you know, fair play to you, whatever. However, if you are an owner of one of these things and you were trying to pass this off and sell it as a real Gibson for real Gibson money, I've got special words for somebody like you, and I can't say them on my YouTube channel. But if you step into my social media, I might share a few of them with you. So, you know, I'll be honest with you, I can't wait to get this thing out of my house and give it back to my mate who lent me it, because I just feel dirty. Oh, just feel dirty even holding the thing. So anyway, yeah, don't buy Chibsons, go and buy the real thing. Don't support the black market, or, you know, fake market, whatever you want to call it. And make sure you point these things out when you spot them online, and make sure everybody knows that they're buying a fake if they're looking at buying one. Yeah, so yeah, public service announcement over. Thank you very much. Goodbye.